Alright, this time I'm taking a look at Transformers War for Cybertron Earthrise Deluxe Class Cliffjumper. This is a guy that I've been really excited for a while. I've been needing a good Cliffjumper in my collection, and I'm really hoping that they do a Bumblebee out of this guy too, because he's super awesome. The first thing to talk about is this guy is quite small. Seems like they're readjusting their scale a little bit for Earthrise. So like previously, a compact car deluxe probably would have been a little bit bigger. But they really, it seemed like they purposely made this guy really small. Just to start off, let me show you. Here he is with like Classics Bumblebee. As you can see, he's quite small compared to Bumblebee. He's shorter, wide, or like less wide and less tall. So he's pretty much in every direction. He's just a smaller figure. I'll get to more comparisons with other guys later, but I just wanted to show that off, how drastic a change that is, because this was like a pretty small toy back in the day. You know, he was one of the shorter deluxes, but here are the weapons that he comes with. This is like their sort of combined mode. And you can attach it to the top of him like this, although these things kind of get in the way, so you might want to take those off and store them separately. But I don't know. I think it looks kind of dumb. But they also, they separate into several different parts, and you can actually create a sort of jet ski mode for him like he did in that one episode of the G1 cartoon, which they're really fond of doing, just picking out like particular episodes and then giving accessories for the toys to match that. So you take these two little ski bits and you just plug them onto these slots underneath the wheels here. And then you take this section here and you unfold it, and then this will actually peg into this this section right here, and then these two tiny little pegs will peg into the holes here. And that kind of elevates him off the ground a little bit. And then both of the guns on one side, they each have these little slots here. So you can either do it with the guns pointing forward, or if you want them to be more like, you know, jets that are repelling the thing, you can do them that way. Personally, I like having them go forward so they can still shoot. And there he is in his sort of like little jet ski water mode. It is pretty cool. Since the accessories don't store super neatly in either mode, really, I usually just put them off to the side and leave them in my extra accessories box, because I don't like it when weapons just can't really store in the vehicle mode in a way that's not visible. But it is cool that what they've done here to like give them all these little sections that can give them this mode. And having that weapon that breaks apart is very playable, so I'll give them that. It's a fun extra accessory to have. So I'm just going to take all these bits off, and then we'll do some more comparisons before transformation. So just for some other guys in his wave, here he is with Wheeljack and Hoist. So as you can see, very small compared to these guys. But you know, for like a small sort of compact car, I think it works. Maybe Wheeljack in comparison to these two is maybe a little bit large, but I'm not really familiar with the sort of scale with the kind of race car that he is. So who's to say? I think it works well enough. For one of the Siege guys, here he is with Sideswipe. Pretty consistent there. Sideswipe is pretty similar size to Wheeljack. So, and then going back to one of the most recent Scout class or Legends class figures, here he is with the Legends class. I believe it was Power of the Primes Beachcomber, just to show you like really how small this guy is for a deluxe. Because like these guys stack up pretty well. Like he's definitely more plastic than Beachcomber is, but it's definitely comparable in size, which is kind of funny. But all right, let's do transformation. Now this guy actually does a bit of parts forming, which I'm not crazy about it. I don't mind the parts forming so much when the piece becomes like a weapon or something, and it sort of does for him, but Whatever, I can live with it since it's such a good figure otherwise. So you start off by removing this section in the back here. It's just pegged into the hands. Just kind of wiggle it loose until you can just pull it out. And then I find it easy to open up the hood now, so you can kind of get a grip on these side sections and just pull them so that they untab. And then the front section here, wiggle it apart, and then kind of pull it down as well. Now that that's all separated, you can take this section here, fold it in. There's his head. Hello. You take the wheels here, flip them underneath the car, and then take these sections and fold them up. And then take these back panels, and then they'll fold down and then peg into the wheel well. So if you're finding that that's not happening immediately, just rotate the wheel a little bit until it works. That's what it should be like. Then take the sections here with the hands and fold them out just like that for now, just so you can rotate this up and then rotate it here at the waist. Take these sections, fold them the rest of the way up, and then close this, and then the arms rotate down. And there he is in his base robot mode. Now, really, he's not like totally complete until you put this back section back on him, and even without it, like these sections don't stay in place. Well, now it is, but they kind of come loose like this a little bit. But this helps hold it in place. But you know, if you're just trying to pose them, they stay there well enough. But if you're messing around with them, then sometimes it'll come loose. But you can also use this as a shield. So you can fold out this peg here and then put it in his hand. So at least it's something, you know, other than just being a part that you take off and put back on. And like that doesn't, yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. And that doesn't look terrible as like a little riot shield, but really it does just best to like have it on the robot mode back here. So you just take this peg and put it into that hole, and then it sort of sits at an angle here. And that really helps hold those in place and gives them that little sort of like hood back that we've seen on a lot of the Bumblebee and Cliffjumper designs. But yeah, he's a pretty good little robot. I like him a lot. Articulation-wise, his head is just, it's on a ball joint, but just because of the shape of his head, you don't get really a lot of wiggle. The shoulders are on swivels here and then also on these hinges, so it's a good motion there. Bicep swivel, maybe like half a degree more than 90 bend at the elbow, and then the wrists are on swivels as well. You get a waist joint here, which actually happens like further up in the body, and because of that transformation joint, you can kind of get him to like crack his back a little bit, do like a yawn, waking up, stretching pose. I wish that locked in a little bit better actually, because it's kind of easy to just like bump him to being that way. The hips are on universal joints, so you can rotate out like that, rotate out to the side, rotate back. Then he also has a thigh swivel, about 90 degrees of bend at the knee there, and then the ankles, they don't move forward and back, but they do have a pretty oomphy tilt. They can tilt more than his like legs even allow for, so it's pretty good. For his weapons, here are all the different component parts for them. Got these parts, this guy, the skis, and there's a few different things you can do with them. You can just have them hold these as individual little pistols, and I think that looks pretty cool. And then the instructions have you take these and put them on the side, sort of like ammo clips, which, whatever. I would think that they would be using more like energy weapons, but I think they just need a place to put those. And then when you have them like this, they're just like, oh yeah, and then just take this section and tab it onto the side here for reasons, I guess. Just so it has somewhere to go. I don't know what that would be doing there, but I guess if you put it this way, you can kind of pretend that that peg is like another barrel, but looks kind of lame. And then, of course, you can have it in the full combined rocket launcher, missile launcher mode by just taking this section and plugging it into this one. Nope, wrong way, sorry. And then moving both the things up here, and then just taking this and plugging into the back, and then he's got his big bazooka. Again, from like one of the early episodes of the cartoon, but I think that looks pretty cool. Yeah, so now for some comparisons. To start off, I figure I'll just show him with Bumblebee here again. I mean, I've got to back up the camera, but Cliffjumper fit on the camera just fine, whereas clearly Bumblebee does not. I have to move him back here a little bit. There we go. So you can see, like, again, this guy was pretty short figure for the time, a deluxe class figure, and he just towers over Cliffjumper. So now I really hope that we get a Bumblebee in this size, probably variation of this mold too, so that they can be a little bit more in hand. And I think that we probably will, because like Cliffjumper's design didn't really have these like tube arms like that. That was really more of a Bumblebee thing. So I think it's pretty likely that we're going to be seeing this guy as Bumblebee, and they were just doing the thing where they made the more popular character the second release of it, so more people would buy this guy. Of course, I'm glad that they did it that way, because now we actually got a good Cliffjumper head sculpt, which we don't usually see when they're just the Bumblebee repaints. For some of his wave mates, here he is with Hoist, who still doesn't fit on camera, and Wheeljack, and why not? Here's Ironworks too. See what they look like together. Here he is with Sideswipe. And then lastly, just to show him next to, again, one of those Scout Legend figures, here he is with Beachcomber. So you can see he is a little bit bigger. But again, you gotta remember that this is like one of the Legends figures too. They stopped making, I guess, like proper generation Scouts a while ago. Might be able to find one. I've got Windcharger up there. So like here he is with Windcharger, and you can see that they're pretty much the same height. Windcharger is actually even a little bit taller, which is pretty crazy. So he's definitely a small guy, which, honestly, like a lot of people are complaining about that, because it's like, oh, we're not getting as much for our money. And like, yeah, I agree with that. It's a bummer that the price of deluxes went up to $20, and they're making leader figures that are the size of Voyagers that have a lot of useless accessories. But at the end of the day, like, that kind of sucks for when I buy the figure, but when I actually own the figure in the future and I forget how much I paid for it, like, I'd rather him be smaller, because like that's what I want scale wise out of this character. So I really like him. I think he's a fun little guy. I'm wondering if maybe something to do with like the redesign to Bumblebee is part of what explains that part forming. Like maybe since Volkswagen seems to be playing ball with letting like the Studio Series figures be Volkswagens, maybe Bumblebee will actually be something closer to an actual Volkswagen Beetle, which would be awesome. And then something to do with the transformation means that he wouldn't have to have the parts forming part. And if he does, whatever, this is still a great figure, but I don't know, just some speculation there. But there is Earthrise Cliffjumper. Great figure.